Hi, I'm Brian Neckrash. This video will provide a brief history of World War I and the emergence of the Canadian identity that came from within it.
The early 1900s saw a rise in competition between nation-states and the creation of military alliances. In early 1914, when a prominent European political official was assassinated, it provoked unrest in the military alliances. When one country declared war on the other, the dangerous system of entangling alliances ensured that all countries in the alliances became involved. This assassination then snowballed into what would become known as the Great War. Over 40 nations would become involved, with the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and the United States being the major powers on one side, and Germany, the Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires as being the major powers on the other side. In late July and early August of 1914, much of the world plunged into one of the worst wars in human history, the so-called War to End All Wars. By the early 1900s, Great Britain still had an overwhelming global empire, and Canada was a part of this empire. What this meant was that when Great Britain joined the war, Canada was automatically brought into the war as well. When this happened, many of the young English residents of the various Okanagan communities immediately responded to the call. Anxious to show their loyalty to Canada or to the mother England, they signed up and headed off to the training facilities of England and the battlefields of Europe. A memorial in Kelowna City Park holds the names of those who made the supreme sacrifice and gave their lives to fight in the war. Consider for a moment their sacrifice. Brothers, sons, and fathers left their families, their homes, and their communities to fight for Canada as part of the British Empire.
The Battle of Vimy Ridge, Canada begins to break free. When the fighting started on European battlefields, because Canada was a part of the British Empire, Canadians themselves had a very limited global identity. Canada was simply just part of the large British Empire. Well, the Great War truly changed all of that. One of the most important and crucial of the early raids by Canadians on the Vimy front occurred on December 2nd, 1916. A battalion volunteered for the task and carried it out with great skill and thoroughness. Facing heavy opposition, the Canadians were able to flank and bomb the German trenches, destroying communications and inflicting heavy casualties. During the following 2 weeks, a number of smaller raids were conducted. The element of surprise was seldom lacking, and swift hand-to-hand struggles with knives and bombs terrorized and baffled the Germans. In addition, much damage was done to the German lines, prisoners were often taken, and an occasional machine gun was captured or destroyed. Frequently, the Canadians would have returned having not lost a man or suffered small casualties, while having inflicted considerable damage and loss of life to the enemy. It was courageous efforts like these by the Canadian soldiers that began to build a distinguished identity that was heard around the world. Some became known as shock troopers for the surprising shock attacks on the enemy. They also became widely known for the success rates in battle. This is an image of the city around Vimy Ridge before and after the battles, almost entirely destroyed.
To give an example of the scale of the fighting and loss of life during the First World War, one must consider the Battle of the Somme. July 1st, 1916 marked one of the deadliest days in all of military history. On this day alone, July 1st, 1916, the British Army would suffer nearly 60,000 casualties. That's 60,000 casualties in a single day of fighting. It was immense death tolls like this that made any victory during the war especially vital. Therefore, when the Canadian soldiers did make courageous winning efforts, these efforts were heard around the globe and began creating a national Canadian identity. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, a treaty was signed, and after 4 long years of fighting, the First World War had finally come to an end on November 11th, 1918. This momentous day when the fighting stopped now marks Remembrance Day,
a day that honors the memories of those who made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives in battle. In a time when Canada was just a part of the British Empire, the Great War gave Canada a chance to create a meaningful global identity for themselves, separate from that of Great Britain. And this was most definitely achieved. In the end, the world saw the collapse of the German, Ottoman, and Austro-Hungarian empires, in addition to the creation of entirely new European nations and territories. Furthermore, due to the modern technology and the lethality of the weapons used during the war, the world witnessed one of the worst loss of life in any war in human history. An estimated 15 million casualties occurred in 4 years of fighting. Europe was both physically and financially in ruins, and the war to end all wars had done little to solve anything, but instead would plunge the world into economic depression and an even more deadly war, the Second World War, just 20 years later.
Hi, this is Brian Neckrash. This has been a brief history of World War I and the emergence of the Canadian identity that came from within it.